Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pro Fluent, the podcast where we learn English the way real people actually use it, in real life, in real conversations.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Emma. Wherever you're listening from right now, at home, in the car, cooking dinner, or just relaxing, thank you for spending this time with us.
We mean that genuinely. Every episode you listen to is a small step forward, and that adds up faster than you think.
Before we begin, one small favor. If you enjoy learning English in a calm, natural way with real examples and zero classroom pressure, please subscribe to English Pro Fluent. It helps us reach more learners, and you'll never miss an episode.
All right, let's slow down. No rush today, Emma.
None at all. Jamie, can I admit something?
Always.
2 tiny words used to genuinely confuse me when I was learning languages myself. 2 and 4. Even once my grammar improved overall, these 2 still tripped me up.
Honestly, same here. Small words, surprisingly big trouble.
And the strange part is, native speakers use them without a single thought, but learners, that question never seems to sleep. Is it 2 or is it 4?
So today we're doing this differently. We're not teaching it like a grammar textbook with endless rules. We're going to feel our way through 2 and 4, using real conversation, real situations, real emotion.
This episode is perfect for A2 to B1 learners, but honestly, even advanced learners mix these up sometimes, so stay with us, whatever your level.
Let's begin gently.
What do 2 and 4 really mean? Let's start with a feeling, Jamie. This morning, I made tea for you.
Already I can feel a thank you forming.
Exactly, because the tea exists for someone. It's meant for a receiver. Now listen to this one. I walked to the kitchen.
That's movement. You went toward a place.
Right, and already 2 patterns are quietly appearing. 2 often points toward direction, where something is going, or why something happens. 4 often points toward the person who benefits, or the reason behind something.
But we're not memorizing any of this yet. We're just letting the feeling settle in.
Let's slow it down with a small story. Imagine you baked a cake yesterday.
Already sounds like it could go wrong.
You'd say, I baked this cake for my neighbor.
Because the neighbor benefits from it.
Exactly. But you'd say, I walked to her house.
Because I physically moved there.
Now let's combine both in one sentence.
I walked to her house to deliver the cake I baked for her birthday.
Listen to that. One sentence, both words sitting together completely naturally.
Now let's look at the actual pattern. Gently, no grammar panic.
No panic at all. Here's the simple version. Pattern. 2 equals direction, movement, purpose, intention. 4 equals benefit, reason, the person who receives something.
For example, I'm studying English to improve my job chances. That's purpose.
And I'm studying English for my future. That's reason, benefit.
Say those aloud, listeners. Feel the rhythm. To improve my chances for my future.
Now, here's something many learners ask. Why do we say, this gift is for you, and never, this gift is to you?
Good question. English runs on feeling here more than logic. When the focus lands on the receiver, the person, we reach for 4. When the focus lands on movement or direction, we reach for 2.
That distinction quietly explains almost everything else we're about to cover. Key meaning summary. 2, direction, purpose, intention, points toward an action or a goal. 4, benefit, reason, the receiver, points toward who gains something or why. Many natural sentences use both together side by side.
Section 3. Real-life situations, feeling it in context.
Grammar only really makes sense once you can see yourself inside the sentence. So let's bring to and for into daily life. Let's start with mornings, since everyone has those. I wake up early to exercise.
Purpose, clear and simple.
I make breakfast for my children.
Benefit, they receive it.
I drive to the office.
Movement.
And here's one that feels a little deeper. I work hard for my family.
Oh, I really like that one. It carries motivation, not just action.
Exactly. This is what learners actually need. Not a flat rule like to goes with verbs, but real meaning underneath the words.
Let's move into work situations now, since so many of our listeners use English professionally.
Imagine you're writing a quick email. You might say, I'm reaching out to discuss the proposal.
Very common, very natural. And thank you for your patience while we review this.
Always for in that exact phrase, never to.
What about apologies? Those come up constantly at work too.
I'm sorry for the delay, because you're expressing regret about something that already happened.
But I called early to apologize properly. That's action, forward-facing.
Now let's move somewhere a little more personal, relationships and kindness, because this is where to and for carry real emotional weight.
Imagine you forgot a close friend's birthday. That already stings a little.
A few days later, you see them and say, this gift is for you. I picked it specially.
Notice the focus. The gift exists for them. It's about the receiver, the care behind it.
And if you add, I came over to apologize properly, now you've shown both purpose and benefit in one warm gesture.
That's the social power of these two tiny words. They're not just grammar, they're how we show people we care.
One more situation. Someone invites you to dinner, but you genuinely can't make it.
Instead of just saying, I can't come, you say, I would have loved to come, but I have a prior commitment that evening.
And later, thank you for understanding.
Warm, respectful, completely natural. The person feels valued, even though you couldn't attend.
Section 4. Common mistakes and how to correct them. Let's talk about mistakes now, because this is exactly where most learners get stuck, and understanding the mistake matters just as much as knowing the correct form.
Mistake number 1, using for after explain when it should be to.
A learner says, I explained this for him, and that sentence wants to escape the room.
Wrong. I explained this for him. Correct. I explained this to him. Explanations travel to a person. Describe to, talk to, explain to. That pattern holds steady almost every time.
Mistake number 2, confusing ask for and ask to.
This one trips learners up constantly. They say, I asked for speak to the manager.
I asked to speak to the manager.
But I asked for help, I asked for advice, I asked for directions. Those all use for, because the focus shifts to what you're requesting, the benefit you want.
So the rule isn't really about the word ask itself. It's about whether you're naming an action, which takes to, or naming a thing you want, which takes for. Mistake number 3, saying waiting to you instead of waiting for you. Wrong. I'm waiting to you. Correct. I'm waiting for you.
Because you're receiving someone's presence, their arrival, that pulls in for. But I'm going to wait outside, that's direction again, so to fits.
Mistake number 4, using to when the sentence is really about purpose, not movement, and missing the verb form.
Learners often say, I went to the store for buy milk. Wrong. I went to the store for buy milk. Correct. I went to the store to buy milk.
When for is followed by a reason involving an action, English usually switches to plus the base verb. For buy doesn't work, but for milk would.
Say that contrast aloud. I went to the store to buy milk. I went to the store for milk. Both correct, slightly different focus.
Mistake number 5, and this one's subtle, mixing up the giver's focus.
Learners sometimes say, I gave this to my benefit, trying to copy a pattern that doesn't actually exist in English that way.
The natural version separates the two ideas clearly. Correct. I gave this to her, the action, where it traveled. Correct. I did this for her. The reason, who benefits.
2 is about where something goes. 4 is about who it's truly meant for.
Section 5. 4 sentences, 4 different meanings.
Jamie, let's do something really useful right now, because this is where a lot of the confusion quietly hides.
Let's take one simple situation and look at it through several short, related sentences. The situation, telling someone some important news. I told him the news. Just a fact, plain and simple. Sentence 2, I told the news to him. Same meaning, but the focus shifts slightly toward direction, where the words traveled. Sentence 3, I told him for his own good. Reason and benefit. You did it because it helps him. Sentence 4, I came over to tell him the news in person. Purpose, the reason you made the trip in the first place.
4 sentences, 4 slightly different shades of meaning, 1 small shift in word choice.
This is why grammar isn't boring. Grammar is meaning. Every word quietly carries a signal underneath it.
And when you choose the wrong one, you send a slightly different signal, even if every individual word looks correct on its own.
That's the part no vocabulary list can really teach you. That's exactly why conversations like this one matter so much.
Now comes the part most learners find genuinely hardest, not understanding the rule, but actually using it while speaking.
Because there's a gap, isn't there? You understand it perfectly when you read it, you can even recognize it instantly in someone else's sentence, but the moment you open your mouth yourself, something hesitates.
We've all felt that gap, and the only real way through it is speaking practice, not just reading practice.
So right now, say these sentences out loud with us. Don't just listen, speak.
Let's start with a simple morning routine. You're heading out the door. Say this: I'm going to the gym to clear my head before work.
Again, slowly. I'm going to the gym to clear my head before work. Say it like you mean it.
Now, imagine a friend asks why you're carrying flowers. Answer: I bought these for my mother. She's had a difficult week.
Feel how natural that sounds? Direction and benefit both showing up in everyday speech.
Let's try a work situation. You're explaining a late report. Say this: I'm writing to update you on the project, and I wanted to thank you for your patience.
Notice both words working together there? To update, for your patience. That's exactly how natural English layers them.
Now a personal one. You're calling a parent who's been waiting to hear from you. Say this: I'm calling to check on you, and honestly, just to hear your voice.
And they might reply, thank you for calling. I've been thinking of you all day.
See how a conversation flows? Warm, simple, completely natural. No hesitation needed once the pattern feels familiar.
One more for a social situation. You're explaining why you brought a gift to a small gathering. Say this: I brought this for the host, just to say thank you for having us.
I brought this for the host. 4 words, but they carry real warmth, gratitude, thoughtfulness, intention.
Here's a useful tip for fluency. When you need a moment to think mid-conversation, you can lean on these patterns to keep the flow going.
Instead of going silent, you might say, I'm trying to find the right words to explain this properly because it really matters to me.
That buys you time, keeps the conversation moving, and makes you sound thoughtful, not slow.
Fluency isn't about speed, it's about flow, and these 2 small words help you stay in that flow.
Section 7. Connecting with purpose clauses. 2 versus 4 with verbs.
Jamie, there's one more pattern worth covering before we bring everything together: how 2 and 4 behave differently in front of verbs versus nouns.
Yes, because this single distinction clears up a huge number of mistakes at once. Here's the simple version. 2 plus base verb expresses purpose. I went there to buy milk. 4 plus noun expresses reason or benefit. I went there for milk.
Let's break that down. To buy milk, that's an action, a purpose. For milk, that's a noun, the thing itself.
Another example. I'm studying to pass my exam, compared with I'm studying for my exam.
Both correct, both natural, just a very slightly different focus. One on the action of passing, the other on the exam itself as the goal.
One more pair just for practice. She called to ask about the schedule versus she called for information about the schedule.
We stopped to rest for a while. versus we stopped for a short rest.
He saved money to travel next year versus he saved money for next year's trip.
Notice how naturally these sit side by side, almost interchangeable in meaning, but each carrying its own small shade of focus.
And once you start noticing this pattern, a huge portion of the confusion around to and for simply dissolves on its own.
Let's finish our practice with a natural conversation between two friends, so you can hear to and for flowing in real connected speech.
Imagine two friends. Let's call them Maya and Tom. Maya is organizing a small surprise for a mutual friend's promotion.
Maya speaks first. Tom, are you free this weekend? I want to plan something for Liam to celebrate his promotion.
Of course. What did you have in mind?
I was thinking we could go to that new restaurant downtown just to surprise him with a small dinner.
I love that. I can bring a card for him too, something thoughtful.
Perfect. And maybe we could call the others to ask if they're free that evening.
Good idea. I'll message them to check, and I'll also call the restaurant to reserve a table for 6.
Thank you so much for organizing that part. This is going to mean a lot to him.
Honestly, it's the least I can do for everything he's done for our team this year.
Exactly. Let's meet on Friday to finalize the details, and I'll bring the cake for the table.
Sounds perfect. I can't wait to see his face when he walks in.
Did you catch how naturally to and for moved through that whole conversation?
Something for Liam, to celebrate, to surprise him, a card for him, to ask, to check, a table for 6, for everything he's done.
Every single one carrying a slightly different shade, purpose, benefit, direction, reason, all blending together effortlessly.
And the conversation stayed warm and easy the whole way through. No hesitation, no overthinking, just honest, natural planning between friends.
That's exactly what to and for do in real English.
Section 9. Bringing it all together. Closing.
Let's bring everything together before we say goodbye.
Today, we covered a lot, but every piece connected to one simple idea.
To and for are not complicated, even though they feel that way at first.
They exist because we move toward things, and we do things for reasons that matter to us.
The pattern is simple. To points toward direction and purpose. For points toward benefit and reason. But the feeling behind both is rich and very human.
We use to when we're heading somewhere or aiming at a goal. We use for when we're thinking of someone else or explaining why something matters.
And often, in real conversation, both words sit comfortably in the very same sentence.
Now, one important reminder before you go. Don't overthink every single sentence. These words become automatic with exposure, not with memorized rules.
Use them when you mean them, and they will always sound natural.
The best thing you can do after this episode? Notice it. Start listening for to and for in movies, in conversations, in podcasts like this one.
Every time you catch one, your ear is quietly training itself.
And then start speaking it in small sentences, in daily messages, to your friends and family, even to yourself.
I'm doing this to grow. I'm doing this for myself. I came here to learn.
Every time you speak it, it becomes a little more yours. Listeners, if this episode helps you feel calmer, clearer, and more confident about to and for, please take a moment to subscribe to English Pro Fluent.
It genuinely means a lot to us, and it ensures you never miss an episode like this one.
Until next time, keep noticing, keep speaking, and be patient with yourself in this journey.
Learning a language is one of the most courageous things a person can do, and you're doing it right now, just by listening.
We're proud of you. We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.